The first thing I want to do is start looking at website traffic. I need to drive more people to the website. Now, I thought what I would do is leverage one of the benefits of hiking the Camino, and that's the people on the Camino and the stories and the insights that they provide. Many of the people walking the Camino will post those stories on a discussion forum or a Facebook user group or something similar. At the same time, there's a lot of news and important things that happen along the Camino. It might be a weather or report, or it might be a hostel that is closed or anything like that. So I thought what I could do is use AI to pull all of that together into almost a daily digest of news for people walking the Camino. So let's jump inside Klein and start coding.
Let's have a little bit of a look at the overview of the project. It's a typical, pretty simple Next.js app. You can see I have my standard layout, components that I need and created. Each of the components represent a section on the website. Nothing too drastic or difficult here. Most of this was generated a while ago. So what I want to do is I want to add that Camino news, and I'm going to start with a prompt. Here's what I have for the prompt. It's going to effectively create a Camino news page that lists the daily summary interactions of important information, lays them out on a page, kind of like a news article or a digest, and put a mix together of about 10 entries each day that contain information from other walkers and pilgrims, stories, as well as advisories. Now let me go and add this inside Klein, and let's start working on the prompt. Quickly placed in our prompt here. I generally like to start in plan mode. I just want to see what the agent is going to suggest. It'll run pretty quickly and go through, give me an overview. This all looks pretty good. I think there's just a few little tweaks that I noticed that I was missing. I just want to make sure that it updates the sources that it uses, not to just use Reddit, but also use openai to go and find whatever relevant sources are on the internet. I don't want to limit it to just a few sources like Reddit, because I know there are great sites like CaminoDeSantiago.me, Facebook posts, and Google News, especially for things like advisories that are happening on the way. So a quick tweak on the prompt. Let's run it again. Now it's all starting to look pretty good. I don't really need the Tavali service. I don't know what that is. I'm going to store everything in openai and just use Supabase to store all that information. What I generally find is as I go through this process, I'll iterate a few times on the prompt in the plan until I get it close to what I want. It's never going to be 100%, but at that point I can kick it off and run. At this stage, everything looks good. I'm going to flip it over to Act and start actually making the code and the changes. So you already see it starting to update Supabase, which is my database on the back end. It's going to have to write a script and create all the information for me. I can keep an eye on the cost and the tokens. I've noticed inside Klein using openai, it stays really low. The token size works pretty good. Just need to add a few dependencies in here, so particularly the XML parser. Now it looks like Klein is going ahead and creating a Supabase function for me, which is great. It's going to have to write and update my Supabase database. That Supabase is where I keep all of the information for the AI agent, the RAG embeddings, and the hotel and accommodation and route data. I have about 4,000 accommodations in there over about 12 different routes across Europe. It's going ahead and creating the tables that I need, so in particular Camino News and Camino News item, as well as the Camino News days. So it's going to keep a track of the day that the digest is from and the news items that are there and available. Okay, now let's run our application. You'll see at the top, it's already added a Camino News section. Let's go ahead and click on that. See how our V1 has been generated. Well, not a good start, but I can see what the problem is. So it was complaining that there wasn't database tables created. Now it looks like I went to and forgot to add the schema that was generated for me by Klein. Let's go and create and run that SQL that it required now. Jump into the SQL editor inside Supabase. Select now that I've got the SQL, let's paste that in and hit run. Effectively, all it's doing is creating all the tables that are required, so that looks good. Run. It was all successful. Now I think we can jump back to our app. The next thing we need to do is actually add the first level of news content items. So I will set this up on a cron job, but for right now, I need to run a post request to inject the data. Let's just run that command. All it's doing is running that first execution to get today's news, because I didn't have any of that information existing. This will be in a cron job later on. Now that that's run, we can wait for client to see if this works with the embedded browser. This is one of the things I really like about Client, is it will go through and test things using its embedded browser, not just assume that something works. Okay, this data is actually looking pretty good. It's included a weather summary for the route, as well as some of the posts and information. Now let's run our application again, have a look. It's not looking too bad. Design's pretty basic, but that's okay for a V1 and also for a digest. I want it to load pretty quickly. One thing I am noticing is that it's including the source URL and it's not clickable. I'm going to have to go through and edit that one pretty quickly, but overall it's grabbed the 10 items and entries pretty good. It's got walker stories. Probably change that to pilgrims later. It's got advisories. Overall, pretty decent. Let's just make a few little tweaks here. One thing I want to do is, I notice it's only pulling information from Reddit. I want to pull some information from other sites like caminodesantiago.me, which is a very popular site. So I'm going to update and just adjust my prompt a little bit here to add more sources of data, so where it's coming from. I asked OpenAI that it should fetch the information from there, but again, it seems to be primarily using Reddit. Now I'm going to update the prompt a little bit just to say, make sure all the links that are clickable, not just the embedded source, and use the text read more so people can follow it pretty quickly, as well as update the sources of information. Instead of just Reddit, use other sources such as caminodesantiago.me and Facebook Camino groups as well. Effectively, I want OpenAI to search for everything, but these are kind of a priority of sources that I know and are valuable for people walking the Camino. Let's go ahead and run that one. It's going to have to go and refresh the data as well. Nice thing is it's automatically created a refresh function. I can just call that again. Okay, that's finished running now. Everything is looking pretty good. Let's go out and check what that looks like on the website. Okay, we see our read more link. We still have the embedded source. I'm going to have to get rid of that. Other information looks pretty decent.
Hey, sorry for the interruption. Editing Quentin here. It's 2 days after I recorded most of the rest of the video before, but I realized that I forgot to add the cron functionality into Vercel. So let's just jump in and add that now.
All right, well, I'm back working on my project. I need to add the cron function, so I've already run the post for it. You can see that it's adding a vercel.json to be able to provide that functionality for me. Vercel makes it super easy. All I need to do is give it a path of the function that is going to be run and the time that I want it to run. The other thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that pagination works correctly. When I was running the test the other day, doing the original recording, I was only pulling for 1 day, so it looked good on 1 day, but now I need to make sure that pagination works with multiple days. So I've just asked client to go ahead and run it again, make sure it starts to add some more days of data inside there. Takes a little bit to run and fetch all the data, but nothing too bad. With all of that run, it's going to go ahead and test through the browser again to make sure that multiple days actually works. I do like the client provides that embedded browser, but I always like to test it in something like Safari or Chrome separately as well. You see more detail on the design that way. Let's go check it out. Quick refresh. Okay, we have all the data of the day. Now we have previous days and next days of data and information. This is looking good. Pagination seems to work perfect. Okay, so it looks like my project has an error. Let's click in and have a look. Okay, it's missing the OpenAI API key. That's not surprising. It's probably missing the Supabase keys as well, because on my local machine, I store everything in an env file. Now I need to move those values inside the Vercel project settings as environment variables. So I'm going to open up my project, go to settings, environment variables. Now I can add them individually, or Vercel has a really convenient way of just pasting in the values with a single click. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste those in. Save those changes and go ahead and redeploy. These are looking much healthier now. I'm happy. And it's ready. That deployment fixed. I fixed my error with those environment variables. Now I do need to add the cron job that I mentioned before and add my job in here. So very simple. I'm going to run it at 6 a.m. every single day using that configuration from that Vercel JSON. Now let's reload our live site and app. I can click on Camino News, see all of my information down here. Everything is looking perfect.
Okay, Future Quinton back here. We've made all of those changes. We now have the cron as well as the pagination support. I'm going to push the code live today, and then in about a week's time, I'll go back and check traffic and see if it's made an impact. See you on the next one.